Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'd like to welcome you to the worst tank in the game. Yeah, honestly, the worst tank in the game. It's bloody shocking. It's an awful tank. And this is the German Tier 9 tank destroyer, the Bayer. Yeah, it's bloody awful. It's... Oh God. Oh, the pain. The bar, it's pain. It's pure pain. It is. And the reason is because it's got no gun depression whatsoever. It literally has 0 degrees of gun depression. And it's as big as a house. Which means that you can't get the gun on target pretty much ever. You have to rely on undulations in the ground. So you have to rely on pure chance that you find that one spot where the tank just points down a little bit, and that actually gives you elevation or the ability to like depress the gun. It's really sad. It's such a sad tank. Add to that it's not really got any armour either. It just gets absolutely minced by tier 9s and 10s. That it's just a really sad tank. It's got really bad accuracy. Its aim time's not great. Because the gun is a big honking gun, it's like a 280mm or something like that. And it's got high alpha. But to add to the bad accuracy with, you know, pretty poor aim time, you've also got like a 300 meters a second shell velocity. Which means that you're not really hitting much unless it's at close range. But the problem is if you actually get close range with people, you can't get the gun down to hit them. So it's like, catch-22, it's just horrible to use. It's also made of modules. Again, it's really annoying. It's one that, as you've just seen it set on fire, right? But it always seems to get ammo racked or set on fire through the engine in the front. It's really annoying. It's just a very, very, very frustrating tank to play, and it's absolutely woeful. And it is the worst tank in the game. The only thing that could truly fix this tank is getting more gun depression, which would mean that it needs a full model rework. It just needs the ability to depress the gun like 3 or 4 degrees even. Ugh, yeah. So, this tank has been buffed 3 times, something like that, but the last major buff did help a little bit, and that is it gave it 230mm of frontal turret armour, or the structure armour, 170mm of hull armour, 35km an hour top speed, and they buffed the dispersions on the chassis, which made it so that the gun doesn't bloom that much when you move. The superstructure armour basically didn't help, and by the way, this is where you find that one position where you find out, all of a sudden, oh, the gun aim's down. And you can do that. Goodbye, Mr. 50B. Oof. You have to be very patient with this tank because of that. I basically found that one spot where the gun depressed purely because there's a little dip in the snow. Just the tiniest dip in the snow, and it was like, oh, I can get the gun down here. This is my position now. I must be patient, sit here and wait. And that's just what you got to do. You find that one position where you can get the gun to point down. You go, well, I'm stuck, right? I can't do anything else in this game. I've just got to sit here and wait for something to be able to drive straight into my gun line. And that's what happened with that 50B. We basically sat there watching the corner, waiting to see if they'd actually eventually come back and poke. And we blew his head off. Because the thing is, this gun is a big honking gun. It's got big module damage. If this 280 or 290mm shell goes flying into that ammo rack module, it is damn well going to detonate it. And it is an ammo rack king for that. It's just a shame that you have such struggles getting the gun down. And the gun is actually a 30.5cm gun. It's not a 280mm gun. It's a 300mm gun. It's such a big caliber, like I say, that if you hit those modules, it just does such horrific damage. And yeah, the buffs, going back to the buffs on this tank, the dispersion buffs were nice, for sure, because it means that if you actually turn, you know, the gun isn't blooming that much, and it doesn't take too much to get the gun actually aimed back in on target, which is nice. Because this tank does also have awful gun traverse limits, and sometimes your hull out-traverses where your gun is looking, and it's very, very annoying, because you're like, okay, I only need to edge a little bit to the left to be able to get the gun on target, and then you edge and the gun just swings, because you don't even have enough yaw limit to see that. And as you can see, we're going to actually fight that here. And I'm trying to get the gun into a position where I can just get the shot off on this guy. And I just couldn't do it. I was trying, but because you have to give it such lead because the shell velocity is so awful, I was trying to get into a position where I could actually do it, and I just couldn't because this tank is garbage. Ugh! It's a meme. It's a meme, but it's a painful meme. But yeah, the superstructure armor basically didn't help either, because while it's got 230mm of armor on the superstructure, it's pretty flat, and most tanks have like 260 pen at this tier, even if not higher, and they still absolutely butcher the cheeks, which means that, yeah, your assault TD playstyle doesn't really work, because you just get absolutely trashed. It's the Bayer lifestyle. So in terms of a crew on the Bayer, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanics, Steady Aim, Clutch Braking, Off-Road Driving, and Deadeye. Now I run Steady Aim to make myself 10% more accurate, naturally. Clutch Braking, because we are a turretless TD that doesn't have the best track traverse in the universe, so I make it as good as possible. And the fact that the yaw limit, like I say, is pretty trash, so I want to be able to, be able to turn to get the shot on target. And I run Deadeye, because it makes 6% higher chance of doing module and crew damage. And with such a huge gun, it's probably the placebo effect, but I feel like if I run that perk with this gun, I'm just going to detonate everyone's ammo racks when I hit it, and to be honest, it happens a lot, so it's a placebo effect. I'm believing it's happening, right? Who knows? It probably isn't making a difference, but I just run it because why not? Yeah, that's the crew I run in this tank, because there's not much else options really you have for it. As you can see, you can just about get the gun down if you find the right situations. Where we're looking for a shot on the Foch earlier, and we just could not get the gun in a situation where I could see that Foch. Because the shell velocity is so bad, by the way, sometimes you can actually auto-aim at people, and the reticle will say, yeah, you can hit this guy, and then as soon as you aim, you're aiming like 2 feet above the tank. But because the shell velocity is so bad, the shells loop, and yeah, it can be really deceiving at times when you're actually trying to find a shot, especially when you think, oh, I can actually pen this if I aim it correctly, right? And then you look and you're like, oh no, and then the opportunity for that shot actually disappears as well. Oh, Gorilla, what are you doing? Oh boy, he's just sat there. We've got the HE in. Oh, there he goes, 1300. In terms of equipment on this tank, I do run rammer, optics, and the ammo swapper. Rammer to make my DPM 10% better, just make because the reload's also not that great, but then again, it is a massive gun, so give and take. 17.2 seconds to be fair for the alpha that this tank gets, which is 1,100 on the AP and 1,400 on the HE. That's not that bad, actually, to be fair, but I want to make that better if I can. And ammo swapper, because, well, I can use the HE on this tank for 1,400 damage, like you've just seen against the Gorilla. It has 105 pen, so there's a lot of situations where I can actually use that. Or I can go for the AP and throw it with the 283mm of pen it has through people's lower plates and sides when I have them, and I can try and detonate people's ammo racks and get filthy ammo racks. Plus, this gun overmatches a lot of plates, so you'll be surprised by how many shots pen when they really don't look like they should, because it just overmatches a plate. This first game finishes with 5 kills, 4.3k damage, the ace tanker, and 1,736 base XP. Really nice game for the Bayer. You saw the struggles we had in that game. There were so many situations where it's like, please, just let me get the gun down so I can shoot the tank. Please, please. It's pain. The Bayer is one of those tanks where if you literally have to get to a choke point, right? You have to get to a choke point where tanks generally like to brawl and get yourself into a position where the gun points down on that choke point and sit and wait. That's all you got to do. Sit and wait. And hopefully something somewhere will just drive in front of your gun and you'll be able to blap it and hopefully possibly pop the ammo rack. It's a good time when you pop ammo racks. It's actually quite a consistent thing with the Bayer, is those ammo racks being detonated. It happens a lot. The problem is, it tends to be that when you pop someone's ammo rack, that's literally the only damage you do all game. You'll find them, you go, haha, 2k damage, and that's all you do all game, because you can't get the gun on target at any other point, and you don't get much else in terms of the damage. These two games are outliers, because generally, I think my average is 2.1k in it, or something like that, I think the 3rd or 4th mod requirement for this tank is only 2.5k damage, which is... Yeah, which is worse than most tier 7s. Yeah. But once you find that location to get your gun down, it's going to be a fun time, though. Because, look, I've put myself up here because I know I can get the gun down. Goodbye, Mr. 780. There you go. That's the way to start a game, innit? 2.2k damage ammo rack on that 780. Like I say, if it enters the ammo rack, it just detonates it. And you really do have to think about where you're going with this tank. As you can see for me, normally I'd be on the ridge to my right. And I'd be there in any other tank. But I can't do that in the Bayer because it just doesn't have the gun depression. There's no chance of me getting the gun down. I'm never going to be able to shoot anything. So I came to this position here on the bridge because I knew if I get to here, I can start rolling down the hill a little bit, which will actually allow me to get the depression, to be able to get a shot at anything that is crossing that line. Unfortunately enough for me, the 780 got spotted, and we popped that poor guy's ammo rack. The shot flew straight in at a really weird angle. All I can think of is I probably overmatched his upper plate, which is bonkers in itself, but I probably overmatched his upper plate, and that's what did it. Now, we're trying to take a hot shot there at the T-54E1. Like I say, this is us being patient because we were just sat there because it is a position I can get my gun down. I was just sat there waiting. There was no point in moving yet. I may as well have stayed there to be able to get a shot. Unfortunately, we tried to hot shot the AP round into the T-54E1, but it went nowhere near. We load HE now because all we've got to do is splash. But again, you can see I'm fighting that traverse, and the traverse, the actual track traverse and the yaw limit. And unfortunately, we can't quite get the HE shell into the T-54E1. There's a brawl going off in town, though. And you know what? I'm going to go get myself stuck in. Because maybe somewhere I will be able to get my gun down in this town. Train tracks, and these little side platforms. Yeah, they're platforms, aren't they? These little platforms in the town as well is actually kind of handy because I can actually... It moves the tank down enough. As you can see, we use the back end there of the platform. It moves the tank, pivots it down a little bit. We have the depression to just blap the AP round straight through the M48 120mm for 1200 damage. It hits so hard when it hits. It just never hits that often. Pain. It's just pain. It's all about knowing your surroundings. This tank is literally pure chance. That's my thing. It's knowing your surroundings and noticing little divots when all of a sudden the gun actually moves down and you go, oh, I could actually use the gun here. And it's pure chance because it's pure chance to even find those situations. So right here, I'm like, okay, can I get the gun down? Yes, I can because I've just moved the tank so it's basically aiming down a little bit because it's rubbing against the building. And we managed to slam a shot straight through the lower plate of the 705A. And we set him on fire because his frontal fuel tanks are there. And because the caliber of the gun is so big and we've got such big module damage, it's instantly sets him on fire. And I'm believing Dead-Eyed had a part to play in that. Yeah, it really did. It's not placebo, not at all. It is what it is. So we know there's a tank over there. And I'm figuring it was possibly the Bat Chat. In fact, it is the Bat Chat. I was figuring it was the Bat Chat because he was the one that was spotted over there earlier on. And he gets spotted up. We were just, again, patience, waiting for him to get lit. He did. Launched the HE round at him and it destroyed him for 800. And we're up to the heady heights of 5,000 damage. And this is, again, it's like, I can just see the 780. But I'm not even looking at the 780. We're actually auto-aiming at him over the ridge. We couldn't actually see him. But this is me. I'm like, come on, tank. Get to this position where I can get the gun down. I can auto-aim at him, but I can't actually see him again, look. But we launched the AP shell. 1,075, 6k damage. Oh, my God. This tank's never seen such heady heights. 6,000 damage so far with 1,500 assistance. And I'm sitting here going... What's happening? Please tell me what's happening in this game. This is nuts. Like I said, if you get the ability to actually get the gun down and shoot people, it's really satisfying to slap them. It's just a problem is that you just never get to do it. Because you'll have this game, right, where it just all goes well. You manage to get the gun down on target enough. But then you'll have like several games afterwards where you manage to literally do 1,000 damage, and that's because you penned one AP round and you never got a chance to fire and pen anyone else. Or you just couldn't get the gun down. The Bayer, worst tank in the game. Finished the game with the 6k ace tanker, the high caliber, 1,768 base XP, yeah, 6.1k damage, 1,500 assistance. A really, absolutely fantastic game for the Bayer. Probably one of the better games it could ever have, because unfortunately it's so incredibly situational, and it's mostly pure luck as to getting the right position in to be able to actually shoot the gun. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.